What's poppin', y'all? Welcome back to I Do It Myself. I'm Wayno. It's Friday, man. We done made it to Friday. We call that grind day over here. You know what I say? Put a couple dollars to the side, you know what I mean? Save something, spend something. Treat yourself, don't cheat yourself. All of that old G lingo I got for y'all youngins. But if you like what it is that I do over here, hit that sub button, hit them likes, and run up that hype. Today, we have another saga on our hands. And who would have thought that this saga would have happened? Judge Joe Brown and Judge Mathis. Let me just be the first to put out a little disclaimer here, right? Like, imagine you on a block, right? And I'm talking about for the people that's been on a block, right? Like, even if you in the burbs, right? You got some sort of block or some sort of neighborhood, and you got your elders, and them elders, they govern in a sense of telling you, hey, listen, young blood, listen, youngster. You know what I'm saying? Listen, young boy, if you from Philly, yo, we was doing a lot of silly shit in our time. Feel me? We was doing a lot of silly shit. And a lot of that led to wars, and it led to this, and it led to that. But don't be out here acting a fool, man. Don't make a fool or mockery of yourselves. Like in our time, we was direct with it, man. We threw up our hands. We ain't do all of this internet shit that y'all doing. And then you turn on the internet today and see a nigga like me talking about Judge Joe Brown and Judge Mathis going back and forth on the art of dialogue. Art, much love and blessings to you, brother, because the shit that you capturing is captivating. It is captivating. How in the world did you get Judge Mathis to get up there and talk about a feud with Judge Joe Brown? This shit wasn't on your grandmother's bingo card. This was not on nobody's list. Uncle Murder couldn't have predicted this for the year and wrap up. And he got a lot of work to do. I think at this point, Uncle Murder should just do like a parody film of the year and wrap up because it's too much shit. It's too much. But listen, Judge Mathis, excuse me, he speaks about how this all started and how he's feeling regarding Judge Joe Brown. Let's watch it.
Let me ask you this. Was y'all ever cool? You and Judge Joe Brown?
No, I only really met him once. Yeah, I met him once. And he said some slick stuff then. But and he wasn't, now that I think about it, he ain't had no dementia then. But, I don't know what that was about either. I didn't respond at all. I think we were on a show together, and I don't know if he liked the things I said, but he referred to me as a clown. And I let it go. But now you're attacking my family. So I can handle you man to man. I ain't got no problem with that. That's why I wanted you to come and talk to me man to man.
So let's establish the plot here. They met a long time ago. He was talking crazy. He had some shit to say about you. And he basically called you a clown, right? He called you a clown. He wasn't jacking you. Straight up and down, it sounds like to me Judge Joe Brown met you and he was not jacking your aura. He was not feeling you. Your energy was off, whatever you want to call it. And he just wasn't feeling it. Judge Joe Brown, like I said, Art of Dialogue is one of the best platforms out there. He gets a lot of interviews from, a lot of the older people, and they tell their stories and all of that. Like I said, I would have never thought in a million years that we'd be here, but here we are, and we about like 5 or 6 minutes in, or 4 minutes in at this point. Listen to what Judge Joe Brown had to say about Judge Mathis.
Punked out and joined the gang, and then he says he got out when his mama got sick. So he does his thing, and one of the most embarrassing moments I ever had as a black attorney or as a black man was in front of 5 members of the U.S. Supreme Court and the Second Circuit Court of the Judiciary. They were having a judicial conference. They had invited me, Judge Napolitano, and Judge Mathis to lecture them for 2 hours on television in the courtrooms because at that point, 20-some years ago, the U.S. Supreme Court and the appellate courts of the United States and other courts were concerned about opening the courts back up again to broadcast media. He declined the show and he said, "I'm sorry, I'm rehearsing for a gospel play."
Judge Joe Brown got smoked for this nigga Judge Mathis because he's talking about, yeah, you ducking and dodging, you ain't want to pull up so we could talk to these people about, these changing these rules and all that. You doing gospel play. Like, listen, this is what I'm trying to tell you, yo. Who would have thought? Who'd have thought, man? This is why we need black cartoons back. We need black cartoons back just so that it could be certain type of stories told from a fictional and funny place. You know what I'm saying? To really, really, really like draw this out. But they go deeper. Pause. They go back and forth about a whole lot of stuff. And again, like I said, they not doing this man to man. So keep in mind, Judge Joe Brown is 78 years old. 78. Judge Mathis is 65. They currently have a back and forth on the internet. But they'll tell you, back in our time, we used to get together and men used to, listen, I'm starting to realize that a lot of the stories and narratives that's been painted about our people over the years was bullshit. They just ain't have social media and they ain't have enough access to certain things. But you cannot convince me that the level of petty of these men hasn't been this way for their entire lives, because they're 78 and 65 and they beefing over something that happened over 20-something years ago. And that's going to really segue on the next episode that comes out later today. But let's listen to Judge Mathis speak a little bit more in depth about him missing, you know what I mean, him missing the Supreme Court meeting that they were supposed to have and all this stuff that they were supposed to get together and do.
Ones on the Supreme Court that are now voting against our interests. No, they didn't want to hear me. And so that's his crowd. White conservative males who don't have our best interests in mind. I spend my time with the leadership who fights for us. I'm chairman of Rainbow Push, Reverend Jackson's civil rights organization. I'm close to Mustafa Farrakhan and the minister himself. So those are the folks I associate with. So I'm sorry if he didn't appreciate me going before them conservative white folks who got on the Supreme Court and ruled against our interests. I'm sorry.
So basically, Judge Mathis is saying, Judge Joe Brown, you was buck dancing. You know what I mean? You're bamboozled. Man, the amazing man tan. He basically calling him a hood ninja, not a hood ninja, excuse me. He's basically calling him a house ninja and saying that, you know, you buck dancing, the amazing man tan, you know what I mean? Sleep and eat. That's what he basically should have called him, because he calling him out in that kind of vein. He calling him out in that type of way. But this goes deeper. It goes further. And Judge Mathis explains his problems or how he feels. And this whole entire thing is about how he feels regarding Judge Joe Brown. Now, this is what, you know, people of this generation would say, standing on business and all of that. I think it's all foolery, tomfoolery, you know what I'm saying? The way Judge Mathis is talking, but let's hear him out.
I don't want to fight him. I don't want to go back and forth. I mean, lions don't fight monkeys. It's unfair. And to put it in street vernacular, gangsters don't fight lames. In my case, a OG ain't fighting a lame. So I don't want to fight with him. I want to get him some care. Something's wrong.
Your man Judge Mathis said, gangsters don't fight lames. OGs don't fight lames. Again, 78, 65. Listen, if you young and you watching this, get your mind together, because this is nothing but ego. This is ego from two old niggas. I'm old too, but they older than me. Both of them is old enough to be my pops. You feel me? But this is ego from two of our elders who's supposed to represent themselves in a certain prestigious way. They are judges. You know what I mean? They have dealt with the judicial system. And at one point in time, before they was on television, they was passing out, well, Judge Joe Brown passing out years? I didn't do my research on that. So don't hold that against me. You know how y'all get. Wayno, how the hell you gonna speak on that and you ain't do it? Listen, a lot of this we freestyling, but I'm just telling y'all my off the dome, pause, and from my heart, for real. I cannot believe that these two black men is doing some shit like this. But listen to how Judge Mathis is really hot, what he really hot about, because Judge Joe Brown is talking about his wife. Now, let me tell you something. When you start speaking about a man's wife, you speaking on a man's wife, and you ain't had nothing, no dealings with her, nothing like that. Even if you did have dealings with her, that was y'all time, whatever the case may be. But when you start talking disrespectful, you can't tell the offended how they should react. Listen to Judge Mathis with this one, though.
Man put my wife's name in his mouth in the context of a hoe. When I had mentioned him calling Harris a hoe, and I said he better not say it about my wife, his response next time he came on television was, well, something to the effect of, well, I don't know if his wife is a hoe or not. If she takes money, if she said that, she might be a... Who talks like that and not have any fear?
Judge Mathis is basically saying, and if you got a glass jaw, you should watch your mouth because I'll break your face. Like, listen, now, Judge Joe Brown, let's hear what he had to say about his wife. I ain't gonna lie, man. This shit is dumb funny to me. This is really funny to me because, like I said, listen, if we ever had any hope of people squashing their beefs, I mean, we seen Jeezy and Gucci and, you know, them do the verses and them be in a very tense situation and get through that. And to see both of them going back and forth on the same platform is tears. But let's listen to what Judge Joe Brown had to say about Judge Mathis' wife. This nigga out of pocket.
Because you're in a gospel rehearsal, that's clown show stuff. And then that crap he does about endorsing LGBTQIA+ on that At Home with Mathis, and the fact that when I was on, I was number 1 and 2, and he was down 150, 160 in the ratings, flunkying out, doing what he did, acting ignorant. I never said anything about him, but he wanted to badmouth him because he apparently likes that Joe and Ho thing with Joe Biden and Ho Harris, and he got offended that I called his little fake negress a hoe, which she is. She's entitled to her sexual activity, but she did it for money and advantage, and that makes you a hoe if you do it for pay.
Yo, he called his wife a negress, bro. What is we doing out here, man? What is we doing? It's Friday. Let me tell y'all, man, take a moment. Let's all take a moment and take a step back to understand the severity of this situation, to understand this conflict, to understand this saga. Who knows how this plays out? Me personally, I don't think that it's going to lead to anything physical, right? But Judge Mathis, in the same, interview that he's conducting, he starts talking about the work he was putting in on the streets. Keep in mind, Judge Mathis, my whole life, for what I know him, or my young adult to older, latter years life, he's been who I see him as, but he talking about the work he was putting in back before I was even born. Let's listen to him.
You said you've been shot before?
Yeah, I've been shot people. I mean, I was in the street for real. Yeah, no. Some of my boys were coming up there. We was hustling, little lightweight hustles, selling the little joints and doing a little fraud or whatever it was. I ain't had no parents. Mother had died.
Now, I ain't gonna knock a man for, going through their trauma, going through the things that they went through, but context matters on some G shit. Content matters. Context matters. And for him to be speaking at a certain level during this interview, as far as like how he feels about Judge Joe Brown, now you bringing my family into it. But keep in mind, I used to let my gun go. Like, that's what he's saying. He's basically saying, I used to let my gun go. That's what he's saying. And you could basically take that how you want to take it. That's basically what he's saying. I'm going to keep it uncut, raw. I cannot believe that this shit's sad, yo. It's really sad what's going on out here. I'm not expecting a nigga that get an opportunity and a couple of dollars to become Carlton from Fresh Prince. I'm not expecting for your life to be perfect. I'm not even asking you to run away from who you once were. But damn, if we ain't teaching people anything, they damn sure ain't gonna learn from no Judge Mathis and no Judge Joe Brown. Now listen, they talk greasy on these shows. I've always said to people, God is not your only judge. They talk greasy on these shows, from Judge Mathis, you know what I'm saying, Judge Joe Brown, Judge Judy. Judge Judy is another one. She talks super duper spicy. Didn't Steve Wilkos have a judge show? That's why I said, give me a judge show. I want to judge people too. You feel me? I want to pass judgment on people too based on their actions. But I'm just saying, for these men to have the amount of time that they have on this earth, 78 years and 65 years, the amount of wisdom, the amount of things that they've gone through, for them to be on a platform and to be talking down on one another like this, what does that say to y'all? Y'all got to let me know how y'all feel about this. And if you made it this far, hit that like button, hit that hype. Y'all got to let me know how y'all feel, because I'm going to keep it, you know, I keep saying what I'm going to keep it, but I just can't understand how these men are conducting themselves, knowing who they are, knowing what they represent, knowing that, you know, they have voices, knowing that they're the ages that they are. We sit here and we be critical about these rappers, these entertainers, telling them to grow up, telling them to act their age. And I feel like, you know, the whole entire, you know, interview on each side is not just the negative aspect of it, but the negative aspects of it is, if you 78 years old and you can't get over some shit that happened at 20, when you was 20 years younger, and you 65 years old and you can't get over something that happened when you was 20 years younger, it says a lot about where they currently are and who they were back at those times. Because if they really, like, keep in mind, right? If they really, really, really had some sort of problems back then and they really wanted to, you know, address them, they could have. They both successful men, black men at that have, you know, had these shows and kind of set the bar for what a judge TV show should be. You know what I'm saying? And they did it for a long time. But now they on the internet, the same way how you tell your little cousin, your little sister, your little brother, yo, get off, put that phone down. You know what I'm saying? Put that phone down, talking crazy about what you gonna do or talking reckless about the situations that's happening. Keep that to yourself. That shit don't exist no more. That don't exist no more. So each and every one of y'all that think that there's some sort of level of maturity, that shit is a case-by-case basis. It is not a general thing. Men don't mature. Listen, Judge Joe Brown, Judge Mathis, Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, it ain't no telling what's going to happen. Who's next? Who y'all think is going to be the next saga, the next feud? Especially people that's older. You know what I mean? Like, it's older. Because like I said, this wasn't on your grandmother's bingo card. I am Wayno, and this is I Do It Myself. For the ones that rock with me, you know how we do. And for the ones that don't, eventually you will. Catch y'all on the next one, though. Peace.